So I think we'll start off, and as people will be joining us, we have a very packed agenda, so we want to get started. Good evening and welcome, everyone, or even good day, because we have some people also from the US and globally, not only from India. A special welcome to those from the Philippines and other countries. My name is Ksenija Polla. I am going to be your moderator today. I work with Tally Management Group, and we are delighted to be supporting the Society of Association Executives of India. Before we dive in, a quick note how this session will work. We are all in Zoom, so please feel free to use the chat to communicate with us or drop any questions. I will be picking those up if you have any for any of our participants. And we will be running some polls. Umesh, do we have our first poll ready to run?
Just give me a minute to inform.
Perfect. Thank you. And please look out for those polls because we do want to interact with all of you and also hear your thoughts and what is important to you. But I am not here alone. I'm here joined today by my colleague Stephanie Bruno, who's our Director of Association Management Services at the Tally Management Group. From India, we have two distinguished practitioners, Dr. Ishwar Gilada, General Secretary of the AIDS Society of India, and also an SAE board member, as well as Dr. Tanga Mariappan, Treasurer of the Society for the Study of Xenobiotics, SSX India, and also SA board member. Thank you all for joining me and welcome to you all. So before we begin, this session moves between global evidence and Indian practitioners' reality. We are not here to tell you what to do. We are here to think through with you together. And what we'll cover today are three interconnected topics about membership growth, retention, understanding what young professionals need both in membership structure and retention approach, and highlighting some survey data and how this translates to the Indian reality. However, before we go any further, I want to share one number from our Next Gen survey. 69% of young association professionals say their top concern is that associations are becoming less relevant to their generation. The people who said that are already belonging to our associations and are inside our sector. So they care about this and they are worried. This is why it's very urgent that we address this matter. And here is a quick insight about the Society of Association Executives and who is in the room today. We have leaders from professional societies, medical associations, scientific bodies, and trade organizations. We have CEOs, executive directors, membership teams, and young professionals shaping the next decade. We also have global partners and Indian associations looking for practical evidence-based strategies. That mix is exactly what we need for this conversation today. So let's begin. Steph, over to you.
Thank you, Ksenija. Let's start this evening's webinar, and we're going to discuss a little bit more about membership, why members join, and how that factors into our retention efforts. I think a core question that shapes this section when we go through it is if we actually know why members are joining our associations, and how are we using that knowledge to drive retention from the day that they join. So we can talk through what motivates individuals to join, because joint motivations are a retention asset, not just administrative data. Understanding why people join is what helps us retain them as a member. I'm going to list off some potential join motivations, and I encourage you guys to utilize the chat throughout the webinar today to share your feedback. So when we think about why members might join an association, are they seeking career advancement? Are they looking, for a certification that you offer, networking, or access to a job board that you may have? They could be looking for information. They're seeking benchmarking data or best practices. Education is really popular. Looking for educational content, be that through conferences or webinars or other mechanisms. Advocacy is huge. If you want to be part of a collective voice on regulations, policies, or standards that could be affecting your industry, an association is the best place to do that. Community and belonging, mentorship and peer connection, especially when you have a shared identity through your profession, helps people navigate challenges together. And then oftentimes professional credibility. By being part of your industry's association, that in and of itself brings credibility. So how are we collecting and utilizing join motivations as a greater retention tool? I'll encourage you to put in the chat how many of you are actively asking as part of your application process why someone is joining the association. Not perhaps how they joined or how they found out about the association, but specifically what is the most driving factor that they are listing of why they wanted to join. And if you don't have that, this is a great opportunity for you to consider looking at your association's value proposition on action items coming out of this webinar to list the reason why members are compelled to join. And we want to drive relevancy with that join information as early on as a new member as possible. So I'll touch on the next slide on how we connect engagement to the stated goals of why someone joined across the entire first year of a member's time in the association. So I want to look at the first year of membership. And while we discuss this, please know that this can be tailored for any life cycle of a member. I think it's just great that we can start from the day a member joins. I think many of us know that our membership management software, they send the generic welcome email and a payment receipt when you join. I think it's really important where we can to send a personalized warm welcome that immediately maps right back to why someone said they wanted to join. And we immediately connect them to the resources that they're looking for based on that join motivation. So for example, if a new member joins and their stated reason was, I'm looking for mentorship, are we able from the first moment they join or within a few hours or a day to provide them a link to the application? Or, hey, here's the chair of the mentoring program who can provide more information, immediately providing that relevancy. During the first month of membership, which may depend on your cycle, I think it's great to send a personalized email to a new member, inviting them to an upcoming webinar. Or if you have a community platform, hey, we see you haven't logged in yet. We want to keep the conversation personalized and moving. And this is a great opportunity of how we engage our membership and engagement committees as well. I've always found it beneficial to hold a quarterly new member meeting. So I'd be curious if you put in the chat if you guys hold new member meetings. These are typically virtual, and we've held them with a member of our executive committee, membership committee, and then maybe another relevant committee member, such as our education committee. And it's an opportunity for new members to have face time with association leadership, meet other new members who've joined the association, and then ask questions that us as management staff may not be able to field, especially if it's profession specific. It also allows board members direct access to new members and understand what's driven them to your association and what they might need. So I would recommend selecting a recurring date and time. If it's the second Tuesday of every third month, you have a predictable cadence for new members to join this webinar. Pulse surveys. I'm curious how many people here send out pulse surveys throughout the year. I think something as simple as 2 pulse surveys a year is very doable, and it's a way to get segmented feedback, understanding how your membership is feeling, providing a mechanism for that, and then again, maintaining the conversation. So keeping it short, 2 to 3 questions at most, with at least one open-ended question to provide feedback. And I think it's really helpful on the segmentation when you're seeing how members of different subsets or a member of 10 years is responding versus a brand new member to the prompts that you're asking. And then throughout the year, bringing it back to why that member joined. Are there benefits and engagement opportunities, be that through a special interest group or a mentorship program? I want to highlight for one of our client partners in the healthcare space, the Healthcare Association. They have been able to drive meaningful community and belonging and a measurable impact on retention because more than 75% of their members are actively engaged on in a special interest group. So I think that's also a huge driving factor when we look at membership and dues retention, but also the avenues for other non-dues revenue that comes from that engagement. Excuse me. So in thinking about retention, I want to talk about engagement and recognition is a crucial part of ongoing strategy. How we recognize our members year round, saying thank you, thanking them for their time, insights for them serving on a committee, helping to complete a survey. They could be doing a webinar, they are volunteering to review abstracts. We want to be intentional on how we say thank you, and starting that as early as possible. And then segmenting members for retention. Members coming up on their first renewal notice shouldn't be receiving the same notice that a member who's 5, 10, or 20 years with the association receives. We want to tie it back, especially in that first year, to why they joined, what the future holds with their continued membership, and if possible, a personalized follow-up from someone on your membership committee or another committee. I think we can all agree, at least I can, that we are inundated with emails. So how can we be creative with renewal mechanisms? Is this tying goals for committees or special interest groups to achieve 100% retention of their committee members? Are we looking at SMS messaging, phone call, WhatsApp groups, and sometimes even direct mail to go further than just the simple automated email renewal notice? And then we're tracking what's the best mechanism for us to capture renewals. Another huge component is celebrating accomplishments. Like, what have we been able to accomplish because of your member support? And what will their continued support enable both them as a member and us as an organization to continue to enhance? So essentially, what are we doing for them? And then another mechanism, and this is something we can talk about when we dive into more young professional trends that we're seeing, is tracking engagement across the year. So if we have a new member who joins and we realize by the time they renew, they've never even logged in, how could we have captured that earlier? Are there opportunities for us to consider how we track engagement of members across their life cycle? And I would say the same for a member of 10 years. If we have a member who was a formerly very engaged member, they showed up to webinars, they're on committees, and all of a sudden we don't hear from them anymore. Is this the personalized community outreach that lets someone know that they're valued as a member and we recognize that their voice is missing from a conversation?
Thank you, Steph. I realize this is a US association management model. Would you approach onboarding differently in a scientific or medical society where members may join primarily for professional connections, knowledge exchange, and peer community rather than a defined set of services?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say yes. Onboarding for scientific or medical society should be tailored more based on interest, perhaps their tenure within the industry, and then how we tie that back to what they need. And I would say in that sense, oftentimes community is a driving factor versus them joining for a specific service or product that an association may provide. So I think one of the questions as part of the join data or the mechanism of motivation of why someone's joining in that healthcare or scientific background is, who in this community should this person know? And how do we make that happen? Like, what's the connection that we need to make via a special interest group or a committee or another subset of the association? So trying to drive connection really early on as part of their engagement.
You. And we want to bring this back to an Indian example. So for that purpose, I would like to invite Umesh Anandani, the Executive Director of the Society of Association Executives, and share with us a comparable example.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. So coming back to this slide where we're talking about an Indian association and turning to the first year of engagement around, and how do we do this? So let's assume that we have a mid-sized Indian scientific society juxtaposing about 2,800 members, and taking this forward, when we see this, what are the common challenges that new members who are joining, and what are they facing? So first of all, they're joining for conferences, but they're disengaging after the conference or whatever the specific goal is per se in terms of that. And we've seen that when this happens, year on year, in the first year itself, you'll see that the membership retention, falls quite a bit, and it's come out to from 100%, it's come to nearly 52%. So what do we do in that situation? And so when we looked at this and when we brainstormed, we said that we'd add a single question to the membership form: is that why are you joining the organization, the association, the society, or the professional, scientific or non-scientific organization? And so what had happened in one specific instance is that they had introduced a structured 12-month onboarding journey, and it was a journey in which we basically matched new members to specialty micro communities that based on their stated interest, and further, as Stephanie had earlier said, also a quarterly review or a membership circle was also launched, hosted by senior volunteers or senior members from that specific organization. And through this process of dialogue and engagement, in the first year, what was seen that almost 71% of members had basically attended one specialty interest group meeting that took place. And that was the draw for them. And the renewal rate, when we looked at this specific society, rose from 52% to 68%, which was a whopping 16% rise. So it's more likely that members who joined a specialty interest group from the organization were 3 times more likely to renew their memberships because of the interaction that took place. So if we look at this, this is basically talking about the first slide that I wanted to talk about. And if we can look at if you could just go back 1 minute, please. I'm so sorry. If we can just look at what I've written below: join, onboard, engage, renew, and advocate. So I think these 5 words basically highlight what the journey should be like and how we should take this forward. And Stephanie's already spoken a little about this. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. Coming to the next slide, what are the common membership mistakes made by associations that are there? And this is not individual to Indian associations. I think this is worldwide when we look at this. So you see in these three slides, I mean, in this slide, there are 3 basic, columns that we've created. What you see are the patterns. They're not unique to any one association or country per se. They show up across medical societies, scientific bodies, trade organizations, not-for-profits, professional associations, and this phenomena is worldwide if we look at it. So the most common mistake basically that we see here is that we treat retention as a renewal event. So engagement only starts at the time of the invoice, which is normally at the beginning of the financial year. Each country has its own. In India, we function from April to March. In the United States and other countries, based on that, it's normally based on the calendar year, which is from January to December. So each country has its own nuances in terms of that. But what I'm trying to get at is that we wait out till the invoice basically goes out, and then we approach the member, and they've already left, the bus is already left in terms of that, because for them it's just a question of an exchange of money in terms of that. What are the value that we're creating? So this week onboarding, if we look at it, for members, is closely related. When a new member joins and no one reaches out, no one explains what to do next, they assume the association is not for them, and that assumption is already ingrained in their thought process. So we have to change their bent of mind. And so when the value proposition is not clear, the benefits list, is long but not compelling, the value is not really reaching out to the person. So if we look at, this other aspect of this is a lot of associations and not-for-profits have a lifetime membership, value also that they create through a model in terms of that they have. And that has its own conversation to be talked about, because you're actually not doing the member a favor. The member is actually doing you a favor. But it removes that annual interaction that you do with the member, and they over a period of time of several years, they tend to withdraw from that. So you lose that early warning system that is essentially there. That sense of dialogue, that sense of communication goes out the window in terms of that. So that sort of a taken for granted aspect, it really doesn't add value to the membership. Coming to communication and engagement, which is in the second column, if we see the generic one-on-one size fits all communication, it doesn't hold the ball in terms of that. So you can't have the same kind of information that is being sent if we look at it to a cardiologist or a medical student, or for that matter, the head of an organization and somebody in accounts per se. It has to be tailor-made to those specific requirements, and everybody must feel appreciated and talked to in terms of that. So I think that's another thing that's also there. The other aspect that's below that is over-reliance on events. So an association is not only the events, it's not only about the membership discounts or the registration, but what phenomena are we creating throughout the year? How are we engaging our members in terms of how are we touching upon the pain points that they're talking about? How are we reaching out? What kind of policy and advocacy do we do for them? So I think and I think an important aspect of this is also the data that we talk about, which comes to the third point, is not monitoring attendance, the special information groups that are there, and open emails, and how do we really reach out and increase our membership? I think that's an equally important point, because it's not about just being where you are. If you're not growing and moving forward, you're actually regressing standing where you are, if we understand that. And another point, any association, society, or otherwise, is all about people and the culture that is created in the organization. So it's really talking about how are we relating to different, uh, uh, I would say, segment of people who are part of the association, whether we're talking about young individuals or we're talking about seniors in the organization who are there. So if we look at this, a lot of the first year people that join the organization really do that because it talks about a certain pattern that and how eagerly we engage those members, and after that, how do we develop a structured onboarding for them? I think that's very important, and this challenge is not individual to Indian associations per se. I think one or two of the touch points that we really need to talk about is to deliberate on is the what happens in the first 3 months and what kind of value do we create in that. And are we actually interacting on a professional technical platform? A peer community is quite often the core reason that most professionals join an organization. It's not about the benefits that they're looking for, and they want to be into a room where it's virtual and physical, depending upon whether you're doing a physical meeting or a webinar per se. And young professionals in India, if we look at it, just want a role. They want to actually contribute, not just access. They want to help shape the agenda and contribute to a committee or moving forward. If we understand that, design a program that would help the individual and give them a feeling of bonhomie where they feel that they're welcome at the table and they can contribute and create value through that. So I think retention has a big aspect to play in that. Having said that, the other aspect of it, which I feel is just very important also, is you must have some leaders. There has to be a succession plan from one person to the other. So not saying more, I'd just like to hand over. Thank you for the time, and I'll let you take over. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Umesh and Steph. That was quite a lot of, and I think we could have gone on just the whole webinar on this topic. I want to turn to our panelists, Dr. Gilada and Dr. Mariappan. What have you seen in your field? How do people typically discover and join professional societies? Once they join, what does their first year engagement look like? Does it reflect what we've just heard from Steph and Umesh? Dr. Gilada, first over to you.
The first year engagement everywhere is very important. In medicine, we know that the infant mortality rate, then childhood mortality rate. infant mortality rate is up to 1 year of age, and childhood mortality rate is up to 5 years of age. So any organization which survives 1 year and then 5 years, that is likely to survive longer. So the first year engagement is very important. Secondly, there are two ways. One is to have a lot of members initially, then try to retain them. But if you don't have a proper agenda, if you don't have a proper benefit ratio to them of their time and money and manpower, whatever they're providing, then retention will be going down. So rather than that, the other approach would be start with a small number of members, try to retain them, and through them add other members, because member getting member is likely to survive longer than we getting as an organization getting member. Thirdly, the online meeting system has done something good and something bad. Something good is if you cannot reach, you are online. But when you are online, that means if you want to engage people from different associations for the sake of information dissemination or educating them, they are not interested, because you get anything on a click of a mouse. Why you need to go to some place physically? So they look at something else than education, than something else than retention with the scientific content. So they want either a kind of a good time enjoyment, or what is the solution you provide for difficult time. To give you examples of difficult time, currently say in India, there's a something called FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act registration, that allows association to get foreign money, international money. For some reason, Government of India started having a lot of kind of threatening organizations on FCRA. That was initially a different reason, that they wanted to stop kind of a mafia getting money, or religious conversation getting money. But that purpose is now over. Now they are going to micromanagement, that how many funds you got in 2 or 3 years. If you don't get fund, your name is cut. If you don't spend, your name is cut. So I think if association like SAE or any organization, they take up such agenda that look for FCRA, or say for example in medical profession there is a Consumer Protection Act. How do you prevent being caught in Consumer Protection Act? How do you have so as I told you, they are not going to come only for education. They will come for, oh, this is our solution, it solves my problem, which otherwise would have been very expensive to solve the problem. So there they look at how much they are going to gain out of that. And most importantly, initial year or so, we cannot look at members paying money, because at least in our medical profession, the pharma companies have spoiled medical professionals. Everything is taken care of them. A doctor getting married, honeymoon is booked by a pharma company. So in that kind of situation, to get people pay is difficult initially, unless until they realize that this association is there for their recognition, for their good time, for solving the association problems, and some specialty, for example, in medical association or any association, all nitty-gritties are not known by any doctor, any office bearer, if they are running the organization. So they are known by professional organizations like SAE or any parent body. So there we should take care of some of their jobs, and that may not be adding so much of burden, but we take care of some of the job. For example, negotiating with hotels, doing the conference where it will be likely to succeed more. We provide advice, and that is a free advice. Then they will retain. So I think these are the some of the things which are important. People, once they find a value, they will renew. Try to give recognition to people. For example, you are doing a survey. So you say early five. Early five, you are not going to pay them anything, but early five will be recognized. So everyone wants some or the other way of recognition. By that way, we can attract people, and I think a lot of people who have a lot of more wisdom than me, they can share their thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gilada, and you touched on so many pain points which as all associations are facing. But in particular, that financial element you touched on is very specific for India. Dr. Mariappan, do you agree with this? Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think this is one of the important questions for most of the societies or all the societies in India. And also, Dr. Gilada very nicely kind of described what are the challenges and pain points with respect to this one. Let me go back to this question and try to answer a couple of things from my perspective and my experience with the Society for the Study of Xenobiotics. First of all, in our society, mostly people join based on the word of mouth from their colleagues, from their employer, or maybe mostly from the kind of a social media. That is the most of the things that attract professionals to come to these societies. The second thing is that mostly, that is actually most often, it is an event driven joining of the society. What I mean by that is, for an example, there may be a young investigator who wants to present his or her research work. So he or she comes to the conference and present a poster or present their work in the oral presentation. So that kind of things. And maybe some of the startup companies, they want to explore, okay, who are the scientists who are attending the conference? Let me sponsor a little bit of money and then go to the conference and see who are all attending and can I capture some kind of business? Or some people who wants to get a job and they want to have some connection with some of the scientists, they come and get mentorship. So this usually the first year of engagement look like this. And just to add what Dr. Gilada mentioned, is that how do we actually keep them or retain them continuously? Is that we try to actually make it as a community. Kalpana, who is just attending in this panel discussion, she knows how do we actually retain the people in our society. We try to make them engaged as much as possible in each of the conferences as well as over the years. So we kind of make them present the poster. We make them as a co-chair of the session. We make them as a judge of poster evaluation. We also make a judge of some of the some of the other discussions. So there are so many things. In addition to that, we also conduct some kind of a mentorship session. So we connect the mentors and mentees. So say they achieve what they exactly want. So as to go back to the first point, it is an event driven motivation for the people who are attending, and we try to kind of match with all of that one. So with that, we try to retain the people. To answer the question in short, I will say please people join these societies for the content, but they get retained for the community.
Thank you, and I love that you also raised the question of social media. And I see in the poll that we are agreeing on and are touching on those really pain points of associations, which is the retention part and the young professionals in particular. Steph, I'm turning over to you to just run us very quickly, just a high level on the Next Gen Advisory Board you're part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the incoming chair of the ASAE Next Gen Advisory Committee. And so this aligns with the US-centric American Society of Association Executives. So I'm going to really briefly share our strategic framework, which will serve as a reference point on how we can provide frameworks for greater young professional engagement in our industry associations. So I'll go through these next couple sections pretty quickly. So this committee is comprised of individuals who manage a multitude of different components of association management. So we are not one specific component, such as membership. We cover executive leadership, membership management, event management, governance, chapter relations. We truly are probably the most unique advisory committee within the American Society of Association Executives, given the broad nature of the work that we manage, while we also represent the needs of the young professional association community at large. We have a charge to elevate, empower, and unite the next generation of association professionals. We want to champion their growth, amplify their voices, and then build a community where people belong and lead. And with that, we've designed 4 strategic pillars to guide our efforts. And I'll run through those fairly quickly. So we have an overarching theme across these 4 pillars. And one of the components that we discussed, and this is where I would position this back as, I know we talk about how do we get young professionals more involved? What are the opportunities? Turn it back to the young professionals. Give them an avenue to create and provide feedback of what's most important to them, and then give them this type of space to go ahead and do that. And that's exactly what we did. We went through a full strategic facilitation. 1 day in person, we had a survey that informed this, and then we spent about 4 months after that refining to complete these priorities that you see today. So one of the big components that we did talk about was making sure that we have collaboration over creation. So looking for opportunities where we not necessarily have to create something, but there's mechanisms that we can collaborate with either other entities within ASAE or other industry associations. And then bidirectional communication. We want to make sure the conversations that we're having with ASAE and across their enterprise are the same expectations from them and then also from us. Really high level, this is a working committee. We meet 2 to 3 times a month for our virtual meetings, and then we do a lot of asynchronous work. Each of these pillars that you see, 1, 2, 3, and 4, they have a goalkeeper. I know it's very World Cup themed, but we have goalkeepers, and each of those goalkeepers work with their subset of goal members to manage the annual activities across these strategic pillars. And each of these pillars is specifically designed with the young professionals in mind. So high level on learning experiences. Much of the educational content that is produced within the association space skews towards those with much further in their career, people 20 plus years in the industry. So how do we bridge the gap in making sure that there's early education for those who are entering or mid-career professionals? Leadership development. We want our goal is to expand mentorship opportunities. It's actually one of the most cited benefits that people in the young professional community have that we offer is mentorship and then access to industry professionals. Our third pillar, and this is, I think, a great opportunity of how you can engage young professionals, is around culture, content, and digital strategy. You know, this goal here touches across all the goals that you see on this screen, but they're also making sure that our community is informed, but informing us to make sure that we're connecting with people in the right way. I think we all know technology and communication mechanisms change a lot. It's nice to have a dedicated goal area who understands those nuances. And then the fourth pillar is community engagement. And this is a newer pillar for us, but very specific on how do we connect with people from when they enter the industry. And I know Umesh and the doctors touched on this about like, how do we get people in the first 3 months, make sure they're engaged? This is a big component for us. A lot of the association community is centered around Washington, D.C. and Chicago in the U.S. So geography does play a big component in strategy, and we want to drive meaningful connection that doesn't require significant travel for engagements. So I would say this framework is applicable to really any organization and can be helpful if you're looking for direction on how you can empower young professionals to lead and provide strategic input in your association space.
Thank you, Steph. And I want to go straight away into my conversation with Dr. Gilada and Mariappan. What translates, in your view, to this model, to this framework, which we understand it could be very US-centric, but I do think a lot of it touches already on things you mentioned. Dr. Gilada.
See, currently there is nothing like a kind of federation of all associations in India. There have been efforts where people try to bring together some associations through bodies like ICPB or some other splinter organizations. So SA is the first effort. So firstly, we have to impress upon people that association, irrespective of what they are, what faculty or what branch they are from, they face similar problems everywhere. And therefore, this is the organization which can bring them together and we can learn from each other's mistakes and experiences. So that learning experience, but again, it has to be very interesting learning experience. This we have to interest upon people that this is the first effort we are trying to do. We are trying to bring all of you together. We want to understand what are your pain points. We want to understand how best we can work together. rather than telling them that we are going to preach something. Nobody wants preaching in these days now. So if we are able to do that in 1 year and bring them together at least 2, 3 occasions, maybe everybody cannot come everywhere. But if we go to that's the planning, that we go to different parts of the country. It's a huge country. In that sense, we need to go to south, north, east, west, maybe central India, and then gather some people, and then we look at how we retain them. Possibly, I think with this effort, Umesh sitting there in Bangalore and is coordinating very well. Kalpana sitting in Hyderabad. So I think these people are, we are all ornamental people. We are all busy with profession and association and other work. But these two people are focused. So I think these two people can be a really backbone, and they can try to engage with people. Sometimes just calling people on their birthdays or wedding anniversaries, or on a say doctor's day, we have today doctor's day, calling somebody, that makes them closer, little bit closer. Nowadays, WhatsApp, messages, email, or nobody wants to see them. Personal touch is going away. So we should go back to personal touch. It may take little time, have a conversation, and I think people will be closer by that way.
Dr. Mariappan, what do you see is a big challenge for young professionals to stay engaged in India in your field?
Yeah, I think I agree with Dr. Gilada about the personal touch because of all the virtual things. Are we losing it? Probably yes, and we will continue losing it in future, according to me. However, the based on the priorities, what is mentioned in the previous slide, what I personally feel is the most critical in India is leadership development in any of the society. So that is what is actually kind of not that much looked into. The young professionals actually want opportunities to contribute, not just to sit and observe. They want to be really active. And the major challenge, as you asked, it is not lack of the talent from the younger individuals, but the most important thing is the pathway for their participation or the mentorship for their participation or kind of reducing the hierarchical decision making or kind of not using the developments, and just we kept on using the conventional way of doing things. So these are some of the challenges that actually strongly reduce this leadership development. So once we start doing that one, I think things will be really good. The punchline what I wanted to give for this particular question is never ever actually underestimate the Gen Z or millennials. They can do actually much more than our generation. That's what is my experience, Ksenija.
Thank you so much. And I bet you Steph would agree to do this. And she also has quite some statistics to support
Yeah.
her claims.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mariappan. I would agree, and I will. So what I'm going to quickly go through to inform the strategic framework that I just presented, we conducted an industry survey. So this is from a very US-centric approach. We had about 150 young professional respondents, primarily ages 25 to 38. There we are, perfect. Just a couple quick points that I thought are great to highlight. 94% of them reported that their membership was an American Society of Association Executives was 100% funded by their employer, which signifies like really strong institutional support for ongoing education. We did ask about their background, which is interesting. Most of them did not go straight from university into the profession. So I think for us, that was signaled, how do we engage in the learning experiences of those who are not coming directly, perhaps from an adjacent profession, into our profession? So that was something that we considered. Another really important component is credentials. Nearly half of the individuals we surveyed had completed an industry credential, with 40% planning to pursue another credential in the coming year. So credentials play a really large role in young professionals for the US-centric view. So one of the questions that I really enjoyed that we asked from the get-go was, what are your top 3 most important professional development priorities right now? And respondents overwhelmingly selected strategic thinking, leadership skills, and technical and functional expertise. So I think this aligns with some of the conversation we just had. I think, this is really interesting. When we're looking at the rate of change, everything's moving exponentially faster and faster. And the need to not only keep up, but remain strategic is directly impacting those who are early to mid-career. So what access do they have to opportunities that help develop and enhance those skills? And I would say tangential to that are leadership skills that are tested in both hybrid and remote settings, along with a much wider generational community or communication strategies. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. So we're talking about evolving non-dues revenue diversification strategies, managing evolving board expectations, the exponential growth with technology. Those all require a vastly different skill set. And then to round out those top three most important professional development priorities are educational programs with content that skews towards early and mid-career professionals. One of the challenges I mentioned earlier is education skewing to those much further in their career. So one of our committee considerations is how do we strengthen and widen the early career education needs. So on this next slide here, we asked about, and this is one of my favorite questions, what trends, in their opinion, were most likely to significantly impact young professionals in association management in the next 5 years? AI and automation, more than 3/4 of respondents stated that. Declining membership and engagement, more than 2/3 responded with that, and then economic uncertainty, a little over half. So I'm actually going to start from right to left on this slide. So the third most cited trend to impact young professionals is centered around economic uncertainty. So we saw really fast growth during COVID, and then we've seen inflation trends that have led to concerns about affordable housing, greater impact on a young professional community, and then what are the knock-on effects within the association space, such as rising meeting costs. Those all impact associations. The other concern about declining membership and engagement. Traditional engagement mechanisms have shifted a lot in the US with the rise of dual career and dual income families. There's time constraints, and we're competing for time left and right. I mean, Netflix is a real thing. So people are, we've got to compete for people's time. And I do think responsiveness expectations. So when we look at Amazon in the US, there's this immediacy, this expectation of immediacy. And that leads to a change in how, in an association space where we notoriously move very slowly, what type of friction that creates when we have younger generations expecting faster response times, and then the actual inherent traditional structures of associations. And then I want to finish on AI, and then I'll turn it over to Ksenija. So when we're looking at the survey feedback, we had discussions about current assumptions that digital fluency in younger generations, be that Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and millennials, that digital fluency at times can be conflated with AI fluency and literacy, and that expectations might be placed on a younger workforce to strategically engage with this rapidly evolving technology when they are relaying that their priorities are to understand their current roles and to learn how to be more strategic. And so that misalignment in perception and abilities, from my perspective, is a tension point. I know AI is pertinent and front of mind across really any generation in any workplace or workforce. So I'll turn it over to Ksenija here.
Thank you so much, Steph. And I'll just quickly go to Dr. Mariappan. What do you see? How is AI and automation affecting young scientists in your space?
Okay, this is a fantastic question. Probably the question from many different dimensions. So I would actually rephrase this question. This automation is not affecting, actually it is enabling the young generation. So usually not only the young scientists, all of us, we should actually view this artificial intelligence more as an opportunity rather than a threat. That's my point. Why I'm saying this one is, for an example, let's go back. Those who are in this crowd, who are 50 plus, probably we would have touched the computer when we were maybe after teenage. Look at the current generation. They are actually, as soon as they are born, they're one or other way, they are actually touching the mobile phone, which is somewhat equal to a computer. So this is inevitable to use this artificial intelligence and automation. And having said that, what is happening currently with respect to the industry, like our research industries as well as the pharmaceutical industry, most of the routine tasks are becoming increasingly automated. However, what remains uniquely to people like us are scientific judgment, maybe critical experimental design, and once we get the data, critical thinking about the data, and of course, the cross-disciplinary problem solving. These are some of the things which are very unique to human. I don't know, maybe in future the artificial intelligence will really help in doing all these things, maybe partly, but not fully the way we human think. And this is what we always debate in our company. We actually try to call artificial intelligence not as an artificial intelligence nowadays. We started actually calling them as an augmented intelligence, which means it is actually augmenting all the work what we are doing. For an example, most of the slides what you are presenting, we can actually make these slides using ChatGPT or Copilot. We can make a lot of things, and then of course we cannot completely rely on just present it. We have to go through each and every slide and see whether that is actually made with sense or not. That's what I was saying, that the scientific judgment is very important. And with respect to young professionals, or it is applicable to all of us, the bottom line I wanted to say for this question is these AIs cannot or will not replace scientists or doctors or any of us like this, the human intelligence. But people like us, the scientists who use artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence effectively, we will definitely outperform compared to those who cannot. So that is the bottom line I wanted to say for this question.
Perfect. Just love this, the augmented intelligence as a short for AI. I'm going straight to Dr. Gilada. Looking at the AIDS Society of India, what makes membership compelling enough for someone to join and remain involved?
The AIDS Society of India had a little difficult journey initially. And we were the first organization in the country to decide that our meetings and conferences will be without alcohol and without smoking. And it was internal struggle among our own group. They said, how will people come if you don't provide alcohol? So we said, no, if we want people who would be attentive to the conference, they would be here only for conference, not for alcohol. So with that, we started, and then we realized that, yes, we are making little mistake, but still our conference should be, content should be very good. Then we started totally in-house conference. So everybody will come and stay in the same place. They will be attentive. And we found that because it was in whether they are student or PG student or international or the domestic speaker or delegates, all of them were staying in the same hotel. Maybe the difference was single occupancy, double occupancy, and sometimes triple occupancy for young people. But everything was for young people provided by the conference. And we saw that it was almost 80% of the people who were registered, they were in the hall. As against very big conferences, the 15,000, 20,000 people registered, but in the hall there are not only 100 people. So that way we gone, and today it has become a brand. So they know that the content of the conference is good. As organizers, for us, it is a fearsome situation that we feel that are we going to retain the same standard? So we cannot go below the standard which was there in last 5 years or 10 years. We need to maintain that standard, both of the speaker, content, hotel, food, all other facility. So to compensate the alcohol and smoke, we created a lot of things, like during the lunchtime, there's a flute playing there. During the dinner, some music is there. All other add-on things we provided. And we gave them so much food with a different kind of a sweet that they will get all high because of sweet rather than alcohol. And that's the way we created. But as we are speaking, we know that it's difficult because all of us are about 50, 60, 65, and young people are not interested. Retaining them, we provide them speakership, chairpersonship, ask them to have a leadership role, but still beyond that, it doesn't happen. So I think it is a big, big challenge. And moreover, this artificial or augmented intelligence is going to play a role. I always tell, because a lot of people in medical profession, they get scared that if AI start playing role, what will happen to medical professionals? And I always tell them that if suppose that there is a childless couple, AI can tell you where to go, what to do. At the most, you can even videographically show what to perform, how to perform sex. But the child has to be produced by you. It is not going to be produced by artificial intelligence. So it has limitation. It is going to come to support you. It is not going to replace you. And it is like publish or perish. If you don't publish, you will perish. And this is not going to be just by seniority or just by you are there in the profession for many years, therefore people will come. A lot of time patients know more than doctors. They come prepared, they overread. And that's the reason that we need to retain these people only from this point of view, that you need to be ahead of AI. You cannot be behind AI. AI will come to your support. It can organize your thought. It can tell which conference to attend. It can tell which are going to be topic of future, but it is not going to replace you. So this is the way, but to tell you frankly, to retain and to gain new people and young people is difficult job. So we are not able to read their minds, what they want. Everybody wants quick fix, which is not there easily available. We have come all the hard way, and sometimes we do narrate our experiences to for them it's a good story, but they say you face difficulty. Why should we face difficulty? So because they are not going to face difficulty. So I think there are challenges, and I think organizations like SAE, people like you coming from different countries and continents, and can share and incite our people to understand what are the pain points and how do we overcome that. Okay.
Thank you so much. And I think we could go on for another hour at least, but I do want to go very quickly. And if you could give me in 30 to 60 seconds each on what you think would be really valuable for young professionals, as well as for our audience here going away with membership growth strategy, what would it be? Steph, I'll turn over to you.
Yeah, I would say for membership growth strategy, one of the things I would recommend, and I'll talk from like a young professional component, is like we've all grown, like I feel like I've grown up in an environment where feedback is fast and visible. Like our social platforms, gaming, online shopping, they all reflect like immediacy. So I think looking for opportunities within associations that invest um, like position opportunities that help us build visible feedback loops. So like provide evidence that our involvement has moved the needle somewhere. And that could be, and I think Dr. Mariappan said it best, like give the opportunity to young professionals. They are capable, they are ready to like step into the challenge and give them an opportunity to solve for what that challenge is. I will say as part of our survey that we conducted, we had some really thoughtful and intricately designed pilot programs that they shared with us that they would like to see happen in our industry. So I'd say if you don't ask, you won't know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Gilada?
I would like to say that rather than we speaking what young professionals want, at any forum, we should ask young people to say what they want, how they want to be retained, how they want to be received. Give them center stage. We be in the audience, we clap for them if they give good ideas.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Dr. Mariappan?
Yeah, so I will actually say that we need actually three things, CEC. One is the content which attracts the young individuals or anybody to join the society, engage them, and then make a community for them to come back again and again. So I will follow this thumb rule, CEC, content, engage, and make a community.
Thank you so much. And what I want to leave you with, if you remember just only one thing from this webinar, relevance is built in the first year through connection, clarity, and community. Just going on that C train with Dr. Mariappan. Before we end, I just want to go and remind you of our next webinar will be in August, and it will be on the topic of global best practices in association management. And let us know what other future topics you would like to hear from us. We will share the full presentation with you as well as the recording. So we urge you, look at your application forms. Are you asking about what we want to hear from those members? And wishing you everybody a very nice evening, and thank you for joining us.